Good morning from Washington, D.C. Good afternoon in Europe. My name is Thorsten Dikow. I'm a research entomologist here at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, and I study flies. And so this project that I will be talking about is obviously together with Donat Agosti, who brought this idea to me, and then also Felipe Simões, another PLASI member in Brazil, who's done most of the work that Tatiana just described in detail about how PLASI and Golden Gate get data from taxonomic revisions or taxonomic papers. And so in our project, we're focusing on a particular region, we're focusing on a particular type of insect, and we also focus on a person. Here we go. And so let me just very briefly introduce you to those flies. These are three families of diptera flies. They're known in Southern Africa from 3 species in Epiceridi, they're flower feeders, 952 species of predators in the Acilidae, and then 182 species of flower feeders in the Mylidae. All these flies occur worldwide, but they're quite diverse in especially the Acilidae and Mylidae in Southern Africa. In fact, Mylidae that's the hotspot for the global distribution, and for the Acilidae, there are 1,000 species in North America, and there are also almost 1,000 species just in Southern Africa, which is shown here on the map. Basically, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, the southern part of Mozambique, and then also Lesotho and Eswatini. And on the right are just a few pictures of some of those flies for you. I've been studying these flies, for many years, and I've done a lot of field work in Southern Africa. But the idea was to capture the impact that a single person, Jason Lund, who is retired now, but is a dipterist, a researcher at the KwaZulu-Natal Museum in Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. And Jason has since published between 1977 and 2019 over 85 taxonomic revisions, described more than 550 species, 491 just from Southern Africa, and then a few more from sort of Central and Sub-Saharan Africa in general. And he spent his career collecting these flies and publishing. And we're fortunate that the publisher of the journal that we're focusing on, African Invertebrates, is actually the museum that he worked at, and also focusing on the fact that sort of Jason has done very detailed species descriptions of new species, but also redescribed many species. So he covered almost 1,000 species in his during his career, and this journal, African Invertebrates, has been renamed from a previous name that I referred to earlier in 2001, and it's to the present with that name. And since 2016, has actually been published by Pensoft, and not as a single journal from the museum. And so all for this talk, we're just focusing on this journal, which are all born digital PDFs. So we have back to 2001 all the ones they were published as a PDF, and so we have access to them pretty easily. Here is just an overview of those, I forget the number now, 36 papers on the Acilidae, on these assassin flies, on these predators, in the journal African Invertebrates. There are 565 treatments, so species descriptions or species redescriptions handled in or covered in this particular journal run. And you can see on the left just the year when they were published, and then somewhat in the middle the UUID that is given by PLASI to that particular treatment, to the paper that you can find all the treatments in. And then I just pulled some of the statistics from one of the statistics tools that PLASI has available on Treatment Bank. Not all are, you can see, complete in terms of GBIF data sets, and not all have material citations fully itemized, but we're getting there. We're making progress. And so most of the papers are published by Jason. I published a few, co-authored a number with him as well. But this is all the assassin flies, all these Acilidae in that journal since 2001 published. So it's a great impact to see that 565 species are now, the species descriptions are now accessible, on the PLASI treatment bag, and with that, they're accessible in machine readable format for many other uses. For the other family, Mylidae, there are only 45 treatments and only 3 papers so far, and this is again, in this particular journal, obviously other papers that have been published for, for this family. But we have, 45 species descriptions or redescriptions already so far. And, my research is actually focusing on this family in Southern Africa for the past year. So there will be more to come. But providing access to these in-treatment records is obviously very useful, as Tatjana already highlighted. Here is just one of those screenshots from the Zenodo repository of where this paper, this PDF, is now also deposited in the BLR. And on the right-hand side, on the lower right, you can see those unique UUIDs for taxonomic treatments or figures that Tatjana also highlighted in her talk already. So it's, it's a very nice interface to sort of explore all these, the data. These is just a screenshot of a similar graph that Tatjana just showed that Philippe put together for Jason Nont, our hero in this way of publishing on these flies, actually in his, and not just in African Invertebrates, but other journals as well. And I will talk about that in a little bit. And you can see sort of, on the top bar, the number of pages, the number of almost 500 treatments, material citations, 2,500 specimens, and mostly in African Invertebrates, but also a few other journals that he published in. And again, we're not fully there with his whole career, but we're getting there. 2019 was his last publication on these flies, and so that's probably the border, but we have to go back all the way to 1977. We have some of those papers already available, but they're not in this graph, I guess. And here's another one of these statistics, just to show on the right-hand side, the author affiliations. I guess I'm not on there because the map focused on Africa, and the United States isn't on there. On the left, you sort of see where the specimens originated from that Jason was studying. You can see the big circle down in Southern Africa, which is, mostly based on the museum where he worked, which is the largest fly collection in Africa. He collected, 26,000 specimens or so, and and added those to the collections. Click this, and so we're on our way to getting there and capturing this journal, Jason's legacy, and the flies as well. But there's more future work to do, which is linking the material citations. And I put down here a screenshot of one particular species, just the material examined, sort of at the bottom, that big box. We want to actually, because the fly collection or the insect collection at the KwaZulu-Natal Museum has been fully databased recently, so the data will be up in GBIF very soon. So we can actually attach to these older publications that didn't use a unique specimen identifier for the specimens, put them into our treatment bank material citation, because the specimens can be identified by the locality or whatever information is given, and then actually link out to the GBIF record that is also found. So you can see here, for example, the number of USNM ENT numbers listed. Those are from my institution, United States National Museum. And so he borrowed specimens from our collection, published on them, and these records will be in GBIF, but we need to now go in. This is a paper from 2013, I believe, or 15, sorry, and actually, make the connection of that particular unique identifier to the GBIF record. And so to provide even further, structured or further ways of users of this information to really get to all those pieces of the puzzle. And we also have to continue to process the non-digitally born articles. And these are in the journal Annals of the Natal Museum, which was then renamed into African Invertebrates in 2001, which includes 31 publications by Jason. I have published in that journal as well, and many other, obviously, arthropod and mollusk papers have been published in that museum because those are the research fields of that museum. So there are many more to be covered. However, because they're not digitally born, they have been scanned by a project in South Africa called SABINet, and with that, they're a little more difficult to work with than the digitally born ones. And then also focus on some of the other journals that Jason, for example, have been published on in African entomology, and it's also of the South African Museum as well. And oops, sorry. Yeah, and just acknowledging, funding by the Bicycle Open Call project to fund these Golden Gate and Plazi work to free up these data, and then also the KwaZulu-Natal Museum for John Midgley help in getting access and hopefully making all these connections in the future. Thank you very much.